You are watching Leicester Till I Die TV.
Watch us on YouTube.
Listen on your favourite podcast platform.
Or ask your smart speaker
To play the podcast Leicester Till I Die.
Right, Chris.
All right. Good evening, good day, good morning, good afternoon, good night, goodbye. Hello, depending where you are watching us in the world. Welcome along. It's the preview show. And, of course, we are playing Chelsea. Notice this. In the FA Cup quarter-final. A team divided by a division and also divided, it seems, by FFP rules. But, did I say that out loud? I may well have done. It is the FA Cup. Last time we met Chelsea in the FA Cup, wasn't a bad game.
It didn't happen in 49, 61, 63 or 69 when they reached the final. But the class of 2021 have delivered. Leicester City are FA Cup winners at last and are history makers at Wembley.
Leicester Till I Die TV, home of the FA Cup winners.
Oh, do you remember that, Craig?
Oh, I remember it very well. Etched forever in the memory, following on from a few years ago before when we won the league. Those two things that probably you and I never thought we'd see.
Indeed. And as bad as that was, I could say hello and welcome along to Chids for a Chelsea fan. He lost, yeah, but they went on and won the Champions League, which isn't a bad booby prize, really, is it?
I'd take that any day of the week, Chris.
Yes, yeah, I'm sure you would. Anyway, welcome along, Chids. Do explain the name and do explain where people can find you.
It's okay. The name is my name is Chid, G-E, not Chidge, Chidge, but nobody can say that, so it always gets shortened to Chidge. And then I write for the fanzine, and everybody has to have a pseudonym because Ken Bates used to sue everybody who wrote for the fanzine back in the day. So he had to be anonymous. And Chidge sounds like bridge. So my wonderful editor decided that Stamford Chidge would be an appropriate pseudonym for the wonderful CFC UK fanzine. So there you go. Yeah. We do the Chelsea Fancast, which is on YouTube, Acast, Spotify. We do it as a podcast. We do it as a live internet streaming radio show as well. We've been doing it for 15 years, and we must be certifiable as a consequence.
I think most of us are. And along with ourselves, you're also on this.
The TalkSport Fan Network is the ultimate on-demand destination for the UK's best fan-led football podcasts,
including Leicester Till I Die, independent analysis and reaction for the Foxes faithful.
The TalkSport Fan Network.
Unbeatable club-dedicated content created by the fans, for the fans.
Follow the podcast on the TalkSport Fan Network.
As you said, Chids, we probably have crossed swords on the mic before. But look, it is a FA Cup quarter-final. I'm going to come to you first, Craig. I mean, I just had to write, if you do check it out, if you go on the bbc.co.uk website and find the Leicester City football page, you'll find my thoughts on the match this weekend. A bit of a Monty Python Spanish Inquisition moment, because I certainly wasn't expecting this.
What that we would be here, or
that we would be in a quarter-final of the FA Cup? Yes.
You know, it's. I think we've not done it easy, have we? You know, we had the one game at home, I think, but I think it was a good result away Bournemouth.
Yes.
We, going out, I don't think we were favourites. We played a pretty understrength team who did well, to be honest, and a bit of a wonder goal to win it. So I think we were always confident that we would get a Premier League away tie, and it just so happens it was Chelsea. So we can share all those great memories of our past meetings.
And it's the FA Cup. It's always Chelsea or Manchester City, isn't it? Why?
I was banking on Man City, to be honest, but we give them a rest for a season.
There we go. We'll save Coventry for the final, should we get there. Chid, look, you know sort of where this show's going. We'll get the horrible bits out of the way first of all, but or might not be horrible. I mean, okay, your owner previous to this was asked to leave, shall we put it politely? And I don't want to get into sort of the whys and wherefores of that. But I always thought Abramovich, I mean, he was there as much as he can be. He was there a lot more than, a lot like the Arsenal and Man United owners, and fair play to him. But he had to sell. Todd Bowley came in, and you can't say he's not splashed the cash.
No, that's the one thing you definitely can't say. He's definitely splashed the cash. A bit like a drunk in Harrods, I would say. I mean, even though they've spent that amount of money, I mean, I totally get it. From the outside looking in, this must sound, absolutely insane, because he spent £1 billion on players, and you would have thought, oh my God, we're so grateful. But most people are not grateful at all, because we all think that he spent well over the odds for a lot of bang average players, and as a consequence we have become a mid-table mediocre team, which is painful when you consider that for 20 years we were the most successful club in England. And we're not happy. We are not happy with them at all. Also adds the fact they're doing the usual American thing of ripping up everything as if they invented football. They've, got rid of a lot of long-term members of staff. They're introducing all sorts of crazy American ideas. Everything is, if you like, for sale for a price and for money. I mean, you've probably read in the press recently, they've now got this dugout club thing where the seats are for sale behind the dugout. $5,000 for a ticket to the Chelsea Man U game, for a ticket behind the dugout.
For one game?
For one game.
Wow.
One game. They've kind of
start saving up, eh?
Yeah, I mean, they've got rid of a lot of the general admission / I mean, we have like a lot of the bigger clubs. We've got a lot of members whose only chance of getting a ticket to a game is to fight their way through the virtual waiting room, have enough loyalty points to go, which of course they can't get unless they go to a game. So it's hard enough for members to get tickets to games anyway. And they're already eating into that allocation by just kind of finding spaces where they can put more corporate tickets. I mean, it's everything you fear about American owners is beginning to happen at the club. And, maybe I'm an old, grumpy, miserable old sod and have a very cynical, jaundiced view, but most of the people I go to the games with would be saying the same thing.
It is true, though, isn't it, Craig? And we get a little bit of that, not quite as bad, but with Leicester, because yes, if we go back far enough, you and me can remember, and I'm sure Chids can as well, when Chelsea were in the second tier along with ourselves. But that was then, in recent history, they're a club that's been winning things. And I guess with Leicester, not quite as bad, but, a lot of fans they're looking down the nose at the fact that we're in the Championship because we've had 10 good years.
Yeah, it's, I think having an American owner probably just puts you 3 or 4 years ahead of the rest of the Premier League, because we can see the way it's going in terms of it's all about money. The votes over the past few days in terms of redistributing the wealth or not, and teams having very short memories voting against the sort of restructuring of how the funds are trickled down into the pyramid. And Chelsea doing it. I mean, we're lucky, I think, in terms of the owners that we've got at the moment, even though the fickle, younger fan, many of them would like to see our owners go because, we're in the Championship and we're only top of the league. It's systematic of football, and sadly, almost falling out of love with so many elements of the game. It used to be a joy, and too often now it's not. The moments of joy are sort of few and far between in between all of the nonsense that modern football brings us, to be honest. And I quite like being down in the Championship. It's more akin to real football. You should try it sometime.
The way things are going.
Honestly, Craig, I couldn't disagree with anything you said there. And in a way, we got away with it under Roman for two reasons. One, we started winning. I mean, to be fair to the club, we were winning stuff before Roman arrived. We'd won quite a fair haul of trophies before he turned up, but he took us to a whole new level. We used to go into the season, every season, expecting to win a trophy or two. Never in my lifetime has that happened at Chelsea. So what he did was he basically delayed the inevitable, in a sense. So we deluded ourselves thinking that football was still great, whilst all of these awful things were happening underneath. Like, we could list them, the TV, the way the broadcasters dictate everything that goes on and shift you, wherever your longest fixture is, you'll be ending up playing there on a Monday night, So the TV, the broadcasters, the Premier League itself, the money, the focus on the global supporter base rather than the people who go to the matches day in, day out, or week in, week out. VAR now. I hate modern football with a passion. The reason I get off my fat ass and go every other week is because I love the club, but I love the people I go with more. That's what keeps me going. We used to say Chris alluded to it a minute ago, and I was going back in the 80s when we were in the second tier and we're pretty rubbish. We used to say that football was a great day out with your mates, ruined by 90 minutes of football. And you could say the same now, but for completely different reasons, because it's not the game that we grew up with by any stretch of the imagination at all. So you're dead right.
No, it's not. But I guess everything changes, to quote that great writer Gary Barlow. Anyway, after the owners, we're going to look at the manager. Now, before we get on to Mistrio, who I touched on before the show started, was somebody a lot of Leicester fans thought we should get when we got finally got rid of Brendan. But before him, I want to talk. Oh my God, his name's just gone out of my head. I had it then. The guy that he got from Brighton. Somebody help me.
Potter.
Potter, that's it. Graham Potter. The next England manager, wasn't he? Don't know where he's gone now. That was one of the first things that Todd Bowley did. And it was an experiment. I think if he'd given more time, do you think he would have got it right?
No.
Okay.
I'll elaborate.
Yeah.
A thoroughly decent, lovely man. I would say probably a pretty good coach, actually, if the truth be told. But Chelsea was not his level. He was horrendously out of depth. Horrendously out of his depth. And he knew it, and we knew it. And, it almost came out in his presses towards the end. Most managers take themselves far too seriously, as we know. And he gave up that pretense by the end. He just knew. He in a sense, he kind of knew he was standing there naked in front of everybody and going, well, what am I going to do? So it was a ridiculous appointment. But the more ridiculous thing was to fire a Champions League winning manager who had won us trophies, but also, that season before, we were penalty kicks away from winning the FA Cup and the League Cup against the greatest team the universe has ever known, Oh, sorry, I meant Liverpool, yeah. So, that was the first stupid decision, and that was, I'm sure, ego-fueled,
he basically kept that after sort of all the Abramovich turmoil. He kind of kept the club going, didn't he?
Did he ever, Chris? He was unbelievable. And to the absolute eternal shame of those charlatans like Bruce Buck. And, Marina Granovskaya never really ever spoke publicly anyway. But you would have thought Bruce Buck, the chief executive, would have, earned his money and fronted up. Not a bit of it. They left Tuchel high and dry on his own, and he fronted up and he took it all on board. He was fantastic, absolutely fantastic. And then the new guys came in. We were a shambles. I mean, apparently he was responsible for some of the signings that we made, and Cucurella, I think, was one of them, and he's been pony. And Sterling was the other, and he's been even worse. So, Tuchel's not I don't think he's beyond criticism for sure. No. And we were awful. I went down to Southampton when we got dubbed 3-1, and we were, thankfully I was quite drunk, so it didn't really register, but we were shocking, and I think Leeds did us 3 as well. So, but I mean, you kind of back a manager like that with those credentials to turn it round. So unless he'd lost the dressing room completely, which I don't really believe he had, it was an astonishing decision. And as I said, I think it was born of ego. It's like, we've come in with a new sheriff in town. We want our own people, and you are not it. You are part of the old Chelsea, which we are tearing up, destroying, and chucking in the bin to replace with a nice shiny American plastic one.
He might be available again soon, of course, but
probably so. As are Rafa Benitez and Sarri and Mourinho. I mean, if ex-Chelsea managers available in the summer for 5 or 6 clubs.
I'll just sidetrack very, very quickly because only because I watched it. I went down one of my famous YouTube rabbit holes and ended up watching when Sarri was in charge with the old goalkeeper refusing to come off. Video.
Oh, Kepa. Yeah. The League Cup final. Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
Kepa channel is in a Chelsea supporter that day.
But look, you've got this guy now. Pleased. It doesn't. It's not instant what he's got, but I'm sure he's come into, and this is no disrespect, a bit of turmoil again. Yeah. You've probably got, like I say, a fairly good sized squad, shall we say, to miss it. He's not going to be able to come in and work miracles, is he?
Yeah, it's an interesting one, old Mopo or Poch. I mean, there are quite a few Chelsea supporters who aren't going to have him on principle because he's ex-Spurs, and that's an issue for Chelsea, but not me. I mean, I don't really care about that. I mean, at the end of the day, he's a paid professional. He's not a supporter. He gets paid to do a job, and he happened to do it there. Yeah. I felt at the time he was probably the best or most well-equipped manager for us at the time. I mean, he'd been at PSG, so he'd got to the Champions League final. He'd managed really big players. He'd had a lot of experience in the Premier League. I mean, he got Spurs to a Champions League final. I mean, I know they did their usual Spursy thing and lost, but he got them to a Champions League final. So for me, he was the most qualified. He's got this reputation of dealing with young players and bringing them through as well, which of course we're now a team with pretty much everybody under 25. So I was happy. He hasn't really put his stamp on the squad in terms of his recommendations to buy. So he's inherited an unbelievably bloated, ill-conceived and ill-equipped squad because they're all very young and hardly played in the Premier League. And it's been a really poor season, with very few signs of improvement. We're 1 step forwards, 2 step backs. We're capable of putting down some unbelievably good performances. So both of the City games and beating Villa away in the Cup, we were brilliant, and we can be equally abysmal. I mean, some of the worst performances I've seen at the club for 30 years, And you've got to point the finger at Poch for some of those things. Tactically, his substitutions look a bit weird. He seems to be trying to get the players to play a system that they're either not equipped to do or not prepared to do. I don't know which. So, he's not blameless. But I genuinely believe there are very few managers in the game that could come into this club at the moment and propel them into the top 4 where they need to be. So I would personally give him time. I would allow him to have some input in transfers. I would hope that they would listen to him and get the team some experienced players, because we are absolutely dreadfully lacking any sort of proper experience and leadership. Whether they will or not is a moot point. But I think getting rid of him in the summer just puts us back another year or two. And we've literally been put back 2 years. But in terms of longer term damage, maybe 4 or 5 years in terms of what's gone on. A bit like Liverpool when the Fenway group came in. You know, that's what's happening. We're about we've been put back from where we were 3 to 5 years, I'd say.
Yeah. Craig, I mean, we're going to come on to Enzo in a second, but he was never going to come to Leicester, was he?
No, he wasn't. I was just going to touch on your lack of experience. I mean, you have got the oldest centre half in footballing history.
No, it's a good point, Craig. Yeah,
still playing there.
That's a really good point. But his legs have gone.
Yeah,
you know.
I mean, he's a great player. Or has been a great player. Can still
world class.
Like all of us,
Yeah.
talk our way through a game, and it's just when there's younger people who want to run past you, it gets a little bit trickier. But Pochettino was never going to come to us. It's typical of Leicester fans, as I've spoken on a few social channels recently about, we should go out and buy the most expensive players, go and attract the best managers with the best wages, and then cry when we get caught out in FFP, and then it's the club's fault for doing what the fans wanted. It's we had ideas above our station, and I say that as a Leicester fan of many years, and I think because we've been and seen the ups and downs, the highs and lows of our club, we have a better perspective of where we should be in the pyramid, I think. And I think as much as the fans did, I think the club got a little bit carried away with it as well, and sort of tried to make the dream an ongoing reality, which it never was.
We rolled the dice, didn't we?
Yeah, we did, and now we're paying for it. But everybody's, moaning that it's the owner's fault for doing it. But you do try, and now we're trying to put it right. But yeah, Pochettino, I like Pochettino. I like the fact that he's got a bit of passion about him, and I think, he does. Going back to the Battle of Stamford Bridge, which we are forever in your debt.
You're welcome.
Yeah, for helping us to win that title.
Yes, we do owe you a big thank you for that. Yes.
Yeah.
We had
the fact that
denying Spurs and giving it to you, it was perfect. Really.
Yeah, I mean, the dream on that night. But I do like Poch. I think he's got something about him. I think he's got passion, and I think sometimes that's missing a bit in football these days. With all the money that's around, there isn't enough people who just want to win. I don't think. We've all grown up with our great teams and our great leaders on the pitch who would run through walls to get a win, and those people are sadly lacking these days. So I like to see it in a manager. I tipped you to do pretty well this year based on some of the players you got, but pretty much on the manager, I think. And I agree with you, Chidge, that I think if he's given time, he will stamp his authority and his mark on it. And for Chelsea fans' sake, I hope that you do give him time, and the owners are willing to do that, because otherwise you're just going to get into the old thing of Abramovich. But to be fair, that did work for you. Get someone in, use them up, and move them on. But
Abramovich firing managers all the time worked because we had a really good squad of experienced players who'd won it all and knew what they were doing.
Yeah,
you've got completely the opposite now, which is why it won't work. I mean, as far as Poch is concerned, one thing he needs to do is he needs to engage with the supporters, because at the moment he's not building any relationship with them at all. And if he had, if he knew his history, he would know that only ends one way. Chelsea supporters Abramovich always gets the blame for pulling the trigger. But if we're not having somebody, they don't last long. I mean, Sarri, Rafa, AVB, they were all got out by us effectively. Potter, another one. So he needs to come to the supporters at the end of the match. He doesn't have to be Jurgen Klopp and wandering around like a demented Tasmanian devil. Just come to the supporters, appreciate and acknowledge our support, because particularly our away support, I mean, you will know, is good, very, very good. Our home support is like all the relatively big clubs, absolutely soporific, full of tourists these days, yada yada yada. But the away support's special, and he needs to acknowledge that. And if he does that, he'll build a relationship with the fans, and they could save his job.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah. And I mean, Enzo, Craig. I mean, it's gone very, very well. You can't say, well, it could only go one way, because we could be looking at back-to-back relegations. I don't think any Leicester fan would have thought we'd have had the season that we have had. But it's starting to get a little bit squeaky bum now in the league. Big decision for him coming up with regarding to what he does with the team, and that's what I covered on my blog on the BBC page. But this is where he earns his money, isn't it?
Well, this is it. If it was easy, we could all be managers. We can all look at the squad and pick a team.
Are we not? I thought we all were. Every supporter was a manager.
There's two things most people can do, and that is be manager of your local team, be manager of England, and be Prime Minister. We can all do those jobs much better than the incumbents. One of those isn't hard. Let's be honest, the past few years. Yeah, but Enzo, we'd have all taken it. It's funny. I always look at it as, if we were in Southampton's position or whatever, and we'd come through and we were top now when we hadn't been top, we'd be loving it. The fact that we've been there to be shot at all this time, and he more than anyone was realistic in saying that that's not going to happen. You cannot keep winning games. It's going to be very tight by the time it gets to the end of the line. And he's learning on the job. As much as the players are, as much as the fans have had to try and learn a different style of football and to be patient with it, which I think they've pretty much done. Management isn't easy. We all think it is easy. It's not easy. But as you said, Chidge, again, if you can get the fans on your side, it doesn't half help when you're going through some dodgy moments.
Yeah. It's not all FIFA, is it? And what have you. But look, I want to come on to this gentleman next, because we got him on a season-long loan. He wasn't, in fairness, probably tearing up, the pitch or anything like that. But he had started to settle in. And I think Craig would probably agree with me here. When indeed he got injured, it looked like Cassidy was going to be the starter. He was being picked. Enzo liked him. Let's be honest with you. We know there's a good player in there. Look at what he's done internationally. So it was starting to look good. And then out the blue, you called him back, and we thought, I guess it's within your right. He's your player. It was part of the loan agreement. We couldn't argue with that. We thought, you must be struggling, and you must need that sort of player, and he'll get game time. He's played since he's been back at Chelsea. Well, he's been back for 5 Premier League games, as it says there, and has played a combined 13 minutes, comprising 2 cameos off the bench against Liverpool and Manchester City. Probably not your finest hour. What was the point? He was getting experience before with us, and he would have been picked.
How many games did he play for you, Chris?
Oh God, help me, Craig. My fountain of all knowledge.
I don't know, but what I will say is he had a couple of really good performances earlier in the season, and you could clearly see there was a player there, and he's got a bit about him. He's got a bit of nastiness about him, which I like in a modern player. Then he had a couple of bad games, but then you expect that with young players. They can't do it all the time. But he definitely would have been playing after a lead decision.
22 appearances. Sorry, Craig. 22 appearances, 2 starts.
That's quite healthy. Yeah, I mean, I didn't see him playing for you guys, I'll admit, but I was there on Monday night, and he came on for about 5-10 minutes, and that's the first time I had a proper look at him. And I'm with you, Craig. He looks a player. There's a player in there. He's also a unit, which I was surprised by. But being Italian, you can tell he reads the game well, and he's got a good pass. He keeps hold of the ball well as well. I thought, oh, I like the look of you. You're good. I mean, it's kind of weird. Why? I mean, I can tell you why we brought him back because, for on and off for the last kind of 4 months, we've only had 3 fit midfielders, and that's Enzo Fernandez, Moises Caicedo, and Conor Gallagher, and they're knackered, absolutely on their feet. Because Chukwuemeka, I mean, he's now fit again. He came on Monday too, but he's been off injured. Ugo Chukwu, he's still injured. There just isn't really anybody to come in who's any good or at that level, really. So I would imagine that's why they brought him back, but they haven't really used him. And it's kind of weird because it belies the myth, doesn't it, that Pochettino, is good at bringing kids through, because there's not been much evidence of that. And put it this way, okay? I mean, Cassidy aside, we've had this reputation of having a superb amount of academy players at the club for the last 15, 20 years or so. And every time one of them has come on, and to be fair, too few have, but I mean, Gilchrist is a good example. When he came on, made his debut, and he looked Chelsea. He got it. He was hammering into tackles. He was hungry. He was desperate to prove himself. And he was a decent player who knew how to play football. And you compare him to some of the guys we've bought for millions who are a similar kind of age, and they look scared. They're hiding. They look inept because their confidence is gone. They don't get the pace of the Premier League. They don't get the culture of the Premier. I mean, I could just go on and on and on. Yeah. And it makes you think, well, why have you spent all that money on kids when you've got these kids who might actually have done a better job? It just makes no sense. Cassidy's somewhere in the middle because we did pay money to get him in, and then we farm him off to you. And I don't know. Surely, take the risk, play him with Moses or Enzo or Gallagher. Give him a rest because they need it.
The thing is, you've got recent history. Gallagher would not be the player he is without that season that he had away at Palace.
Totally right.
No way, because he wouldn't have got the minutes.
Mason Mount at Derby.
Yeah. They have to go because your squad's too big, too expensive to have players who were bought for a lot of money sitting on the bench while you play your kids. So you have to send them out. He was getting good game time. He would have been a much better player for you next season if he'd have stayed with us for the rest of the season. That's for sure. And I don't know how he's going to develop when he's getting 10 minutes here and there.
Well, in the old days, Craig, you would say the one thing that might mitigate that is that he's going to be he's going to be in a world-class environment, surrounded by world-class players who he's going to learn from. You cannot say that about Chelsea right now. So he's not going to learn anything out there. Aside from the game time, he was learning under a manager who is a very well-respected coach coming out of the Pep Guardiola, academy of coaches. He would have learned a lot on the training pitch, let alone the playing time that he would have got. It's just a crazy, crazy decision.
But do you think, Craig, and in fairness to him, like I said before, we know there's a great player in there, and I'm sure Enzo, like you say, with his history with the younger guys at Man City would have got a tune out of him. But have we missed him? Apart from the fact that it's another body that we're short of in midfield. But, Dennis Pratt came in. All right, Dennis Pratt, he's got injured. But, I wouldn't say we've overly missed him. Or would you disagree?
Yeah, I think he would have been playing. I think he would have been playing all the way through. He had a couple of starts. He got a goal, I think. And he's just started to look like he believed that he belonged in the team, that he deserved to be playing. And I think he would have just got better. And I think he would have been there. If you look at that since, Dennis came through, but, only because Cassidy was gone. And we've tried different people in there. We've tried bringing in defenders, wingers to play inside. Eunice Atgung, we've tried playing in that position. Nobody's filled it. He had a fantastic opportunity. And whoever made that decision at Chelsea needs a strong talking to.
Yeah. Right. Are you ready, Craig, for your first quiz question?
I never am.
You never are. This one, I think you might know the answer to. question number one. Don't panic, Chids. You won't have any. What were you doing on the 15th of May, 2021?
Let me think. I don't know. I might have been in London.
Were you? Now, if you'd gone to London, any place you might have just popped into for sort of 90 odd minutes?
I remember. I think I drove to Stanmore and got off at Wembley. I don't know. I may have followed the crowd, hoping that there was a sale on at John Lewis or something, and ended up here.
I'm sorry, Chids. I'm sorry. You have plenty of these to celebrate. We don't. It took us.
Fair point.
It took us 5 attempts to get this damn trophy, and I got to say, as much as this club has given me lots of pleasure over the years, and I don't mean that in any rude way, it has also turned me to tears, and this was one of them, because I was at home watching it with my son, and I think it's the family. I mean, you've got Scott, Craig, and when you sat there, I never thought that I would be with my son and see us lift the Premier League. I never thought I would be stood at my ground with my son listening to the Champions League music blare out, and I never thought I would be with him watching an FA Cup. We weren't there because it was the COVID final, and yes, Chids, it does count. But and the funny thing was, when that final whistle went, I had to turn away and look at the window because I was welling up and my voice was going, and I heard Sean ask me something, and I couldn't understand what he was saying because he was doing exactly the same. Yeah. I mean, from our point of view, Craig, love VAR, like you said earlier. Couldn't have happened to a nicer player in Ben Chilwell. And it's still given me one of my all-time favourite football moments, which was that Chelsea fan went viral celebrating, only for it to have be chalked off. But look, whether it was VAR or not VAR, that's the fact. 1-0. It was a great. We didn't know then what was going to happen, but what a day! What a day!
Yeah, I mean, it was. It's I've waited to get to an FA Cup final. Last one was '69. I was at Villa Park. I think it was '84 when we got to the semis.
No, I was there.
Yeah,
I think I saw you.
And Spurs beat us to that one. It might have been '81 actually. But we've never really been that close before, since then. So to get to the final was just fantastic. Winning it was a dream. It's a shame that it wasn't a full house, that everyone could have been there. But just that moment, I thought we played pretty well on the day. Chelsea played okay, not to the levels. But again, if it wasn't for VAR and the fact that Schmeichel didn't cut his fingernails that day, and made that an unbelievable save from Mason Mount, I think it was.
Yes.
It might have been different. There was no way we were going to come back and win that game if that goal had stood. Absolutely
not at all.
We were dead on our feet. But it was just a fantastic moment. And I think it's, we know as Chelsea fans, you're going to have many, many more of those moments than we are.
Maybe not. I mean,
I think there's more chance. I think there's more chance that you'll be in and around those areas.
Logic would tell you yes, but you never know. I mean, that's the beautiful thing, Craig. You never know. I mean, we're all probably about the same sort of age. I was a bit too young for the 1970 final, but I had mates who were there who then had to wait 24 years. Well, 22 if you count the League Cup in 72, but they had to wait 20 odd years before we got to Wembley in a proper cup final. I mean, forget the full members for now, but and they used to get together and celebrate the 70 win. They used to have like the BBC commentary on vinyl, and they'd gather around and listen to it on the same day every year. So it means a lot to supporters of a certain age, and you grow up understanding that there is no divine right to get into the FA Cup every year and win it. Now, obviously, last 20 years, we've done exceptionally well. But, I mean, ridiculously well, beyond my imagination and dreams. But I took my nephew, he's 17, and I've been taking him to a few games this year. I'm trying to get him to a few away games because they're more fun, aren't they?
Yeah.
But I took him to the Caribou Cup final the other week, and he's not very happy with me because I took him to a final at Wembley and they've lost. And I kind of explained to him before. I said, mate, I'm desperate to get you to this final because you know what? The state we're in, we might not get to one for years. You know, and I don't want you to miss the chance. And he said, he's got a hump because we lost. I said, well, mate, look, you know, the first final I went to, we lost. So, you know, this is how it is. This is what, you know, the FA Cup, League Cup's all about. And I don't know, maybe modern sports don't get that like we all do, but it's really important. It means everything. I love it. I mean, Champions League trumps it for me slightly because you talk about you lot not thinking you win the FA Cup. I mean, I grew up watching Liverpool win it all in the 70s and hating every minute of it. I never believed that Chelsea would I'm going to say compete for the European Cup, forget the Champions League. And you talk about crying, Chris. I was in Munich and I very nearly didn't make it because I didn't have any money. I couldn't get a ticket, couldn't get time off work, all sorts of things. But I made it, got a ticket. And I blubbed like a baby when Drogba put that penalty in. And I was thinking of that all those years. I'd seen us in the second division or not winning anything. And to sit there at the pinnacle of Europe, you have to pinch yourself. So I get, I mean, okay, FA Cup's slightly different, but it's the same kind of thing. I get it. You know, good for you, even though it was us.
Yeah. Well, you did, like I say, go on and win the Champions League. It wasn't a bad booby prize for you.
I actually feel sorry for you that it was in the COVID time and you couldn't go. I think that's so cruel, actually. I mean, I know I joked about it not counting earlier on, but in all seriousness, to be in a cup final, to win it and not be able to be there is just awful. I feel for you. I really do.
I do sort of console myself with the fact that I went down for the Charity Shield or Community Shield, whatever they call it. As I like to call it, the English Super Cup. Let's give it its proper name, which in any other country it would be. It would be the English Super Cup. It's the Spanish Super Cup. And we beat Manchester City. So I have been to the old Wembley and seen us win, and I've been to the new Wembley and seen us win. So I can't complain, really. But no, that was the last time I don't think we've beaten you since then.
No,
No, but that was the last. But we forget those. They were just league games. They didn't matter, you know. But back to this season. Now that is something. When I did it, I never thought I would. I mean, that's like, it's in fairness, that's like a Brighton season graph, not a Chelsea season graph.
Funny you should say that, Chris.
Yeah,
this is what happens when you buy Brighton players, Brighton managers, Brighton sporting directors. You turn into New Brighton.
I was trying to think what team I could be. I was going to say maybe another London club, but I didn't think you'd like me for that. And last season it was 12th. And we said earlier, didn't we, that, you know, it doesn't matter that, I say, because we all remember, well, I remember, and I think you guys do, when you were in the second tier before Abramovich, and same with us before King Power. That doesn't matter, because in recent time, you have been one of the top teams in the country. That really, I mean, I know for us, relegation must hurt, and you're never going to get relegated, let's be honest, but how much does that hurt when you look at that?
Massively, you know, because apart from that, you know, the Mourinho Mark II blip where we finished, I mean, he got the boot, didn't he? Actually, funnily enough, got the boot after losing to you lot. And
you're ever happy to get a manager's the sack.
You do. You and West Brom, beware a Chelsea manager going away to West Brom or Leicester, because you know you're going to get the tin tack. But yeah, well, I mean, we finished, I think Gus came in and righted the ship. We finished about 12th, I think. It really hurts because, I mean, here's the thing. Do you know what? It doesn't really hurt in one level because, look, I'm old enough and ugly enough to know that you've got no divine right to win everything and be in the top four every year. Football in our day used to be very cyclical. You know, you had periods of dominance and the team would fall away. I get all of that. What really grinds my gears is this is so completely and utterly unnecessary. There is absolutely no reason why we should be out of the top six. And if the owners had come in and been more sensible I mean, if they had that money to spend, you know, they could have got rid of some of the dead weight that we had, and there was plenty of that. And I don't disagree with a lot of them that got sold, but they could have, you know, they had enough money to buy a world-class spine, They had enough money to buy some experienced players like Maddison. You guys know him well enough. Maddison, 30 odd million. What would he have done for us? There are others. James Ward-Prowse, really good, solid midfield player. Great at set pieces. They could have done judicious signings, and we would have been in the top 6 if they'd done that. But oh no, they have this great idea, all stats driven, data driven. It's all going to be about developing this side over a 3 to 5 year period so they can dominate the league, because City will have gone without Pep Guardiola, Klopp would have gone from Liverpool, blah 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 blah. But that fans don't give a stuff about that. It's about here and now for us. It's about what's happening this season. We'll worry about next season. So it's maddening. It's just absolutely maddening, because it was completely unnecessary. And actually, I think it's going to do a lot more harm than good in the longer term, because if you get off the European radar, it's harder to come back in. You lose a lot of money. It's massively competitive. If they are definitely trying to expand the revenue globally, then the global supporter base are not like us lot. They'll just pick whoever's winning it this year, and you've lost another customer. So, it's mental and it's unnecessary, and that's what annoys me.
I don't think he's happy, Craig.
How can you tell?
Yeah, just thinking the tone of your voice gives it away.
But it's ironic, isn't it? Being a football fan of a so-called, what I will say, big club these days, as you are, that over the years the goalposts have moved. You now judge yourself against a different set of clubs than you would have done 20, 25, 30 years ago.
Totally.
And so your level of having a bad season is mid-table.
Yeah.
Our level of bad season is ending up in League One.
Yeah.
And this is it. But for me, and the younger, I don't want to have a go at the younger generation, but if you're a younger generation and you latch onto a club, however it is, whichever club you follow, and Leicester fans, we've got enough youngsters who only came on board when we won the league, and it's been pretty successful now. But we appreciate the highs a lot more because we've had the lows. I know it's a cliche, but those that don't, you say this is the end of the world to a generation of your fans.
No, it is. I mean, there are supporters now who you've got two types, haven't you? That you got those that followed the club because they were winning, so they turned up in 2005. But you've got those who were maybe 10 years old in 2005. They've known nothing but success, and they've got every right to have the hump. I mean, like you guys, I know that you have to have your downs as well as your ups. I've seen us play in the second division. I get all of that. But as I said, what really annoys me is how unnecessary this was, because we'd worked really hard and we won the lottery. We got Roman Abramovich. He was prepared to spend anything he had to make us successful, had a game plan to put us in the elite of world football, did so, backed it up with loads of trophies. So once you've done that, you think, okay, because of the way modern football is now, once you've cracked it, you should be able to stay there. And it's gross negligence to fall out of that. You have to have done something really stupid or wrong to fall out of that. And I mean, before you say it, Chris, because of FFP, which was a device invented to shut the door on anybody else joining the top six. So we were ring-fenced. And then we have owners who are amongst the richest in the game, and they still screwed up. That's why I'm annoyed. We could get relegated to the third, fourth tier. I don't care. I'd still go because I love the club. Yeah. That's what you do. So it's not about that for me. It's about how utterly unnecessary and senseless this has been, really.
I always say you can change your job, you can change your partner, but you can never change your football club.
Absolutely right.
Yeah.
For good or ill, for better or worse.
Yes, exactly. And I've changed two of them, and I still support Leicester, so you can work out which it is. But yeah, we don't talk about FFP at the moment, do we, Craig? It's a sort of point. It is what it is. It is funny though, because there was a rumor went round when we won it. We won that sort of big trophy behind me. That the big clubs were saying, "Well, it's never going to happen again," and you feel like it probably never will now.
No, it's as I said. I said it last week when we were on. All of the rule changes. Everything is geared to protecting the big clubs and just making those big clubs bigger and bigger. So they never have, these kind of blip seasons. It's sort of a European Super League by stealth. This is what's happening to football, sadly.
Yeah. And I think we've got to remember as well is, like you say, we are all getting on a little bit, and I used to get so wound up by Man United fans who had this great sort of like, we are Man United, therefore we should be winning things. But then when you look at it, they had such success over such a long period of time that a lot of their younger fans never knew anything else.
No.
They never knew, before Ferguson and how they were, in fairness, just a bang average team. But that's football, isn't it? That's football.
You know what? I think it has something to do with identity, which is a subject that gets bandied around on various things I write for and stuff. And sometimes we struggle a bit, I think, to know what we are. But I think what happened with Raymond, our identity became synonymous with winning trophies. And I think, now we're in a position where that's unlikely at the moment. It kind of doubles the pain in a sense, because you start, there's nothing worse than questioning your own identity and who you are and what you stand for. And I think it's caused a lot of problems for us in that respect. So, these are, they're quite kind of, there's a lot of mysterious stuff that goes on underneath that. And I think that's another thing that's kind of affected us, really.
You are doing one good thing, and that is that you can't always buy success.
Totally agree.
And not just you. Other clubs have had the same, but it does require a well-run club and a good manager and good players to all come together. The days of, it was argued when Blackburn won the league that Jack Walker had bought it, because he'd bought some big players. And then, I mean, if we can all remember that, and that's in no way is that spending big money, but he was accused that he'd bought the league at that time. But now there's so many clubs that can buy the league that it doesn't work anymore.
No, absolutely right. And I think that proves to you that, because we used to obviously get that leveled at us under Raymond, he bought the league. Well, yeah, he put a lot of money in, but maybe he actually did assemble a good team with good managers and a well-run setup. And then you get this lot coming in saying it was really badly run, really badly set up, and we're here to make it 20% better. Right.
And I think if you remember, again, going to Man United as the example, simply because it's true. And before Fergie, they used to go out and always buy the top players.
Yeah,
but they just didn't have the right combination. But you do need the manager and the players to go with the money. The route to the quarterfinals. Look at ourselves first here, Craig. It's not. I mean, it's hard to think in a way like all three games and we're in a quarterfinal, but it is what it is, and they're pretty similar. We've played two championship sides, so have Chelsea. We've played one Premier League side, so have Chelsea. Millwall, that was a bit of a good, ended up 3-2 to us. Birmingham 3-0. That doesn't really tell the true story. That was 3-0 on the second 45 minutes only. We'll forget the first 45. And of course, Bournemouth. And I think of Bournemouth, I mean, as you know, due to your kindness, I was there. And I did look at that. Now, if we get promoted this season, and it's still if, I wouldn't expect just to necessarily get points off, say, Chelsea or those sort of teams. I would expect us to probably try and get something off Bournemouth. So I was looking at this game and thinking, judging how far we'd come. And in fairness, we did have a weakened side out. They had the main side out, but we gave them as good as we got. It's we've only been home once. Your thoughts on our running?
Well, I mean, You're right. I mean, a lot of people are saying, if the way we're playing football at the minute, we'd get absolutely battered in the Premier League. But they're talking about, the big clubs who probably would beat us and beat us comfortably. But that's not the game, is it? It's the bottom half of the table that you look at. Yeah. But I think we did well. Going away to Millwall is never easy. I was there when we drew them last time away in the cup, and
are you still with us?
What a horrible place. Jesus. I mean, I've been to Millwall twice for away games in the cup.
Excuse me, you mad bugger. I mean, it's not a place you go to once and never go back to, isn't it?
Well, I went to the old Den and I went to the new Den.
Oh, fair.
And both times they beat us, and both times they still came on the pitch, trying to get in. It's like they can't even enjoy a victory. Go down the pub, have a few pints or whatever. They've got to be Millwall, and then they complain that nobody likes them, and it's all our fault. But an aside, but that game was a good game for us to go and win. I think we were 3-1 up, and we had a 3-1 in near the end, and it was a little bit dodgy towards the end of that game. But Birmingham, as you say. Yeah, that was a game of two halves, but comfortable in the end. We could have scored a lot more. And then Bournemouth, that was a really good performance.
Yes.
With a weakened team, I know they weakened, but we swapped more players than they did. I think
9. I think we swapped.
Yeah. So like any cup game, you're going to get chances at both ends. But that was a good result for us, and in many ways, and you'll be able to tell us, Chidge, I wanted to play Chelsea more in the next round than I did Leeds. I thought we'd have more chance coming to you to get a result than we would going to Leeds, because Leeds had just beaten us in the league, in a horrible game that we should have absolutely battered them. Well, we battered them for 80 minutes and then lost 3-1. But I just thought the whole atmosphere and the way that your team was playing at the time, we would be better suited to come into Stamford Bridge and trying to get a result there than Leeds. By all accounts, you weren't great against Leeds, but you got the result. And at the end of it, in a cup game, that's all that matters. Were you lucky to get through, or?
I don't know about luck. I don't think we were lucky. I mean, we were the better team, but we were really sloppy. I mean, we went behind really early. Well, not really early actually at all. What we're talking about? Did we? Yeah, we did. No, 8 minutes they scored, and of course, the minute that happens with this team, it puts them right back. They lose their shape, they lose their discipline, they get nervous. But we scored a couple of really good goals. Mudryk scored a goal for us to put us 2-1 up, and we were should have been in control of the game. But the thing that happens with us is they come out the second half. And I missed the Brentford match, and I was doing something else. I was out with a mate with no access to a TV, and largely because we were drinking. And I said, "Oh, I know what's happened. Somebody texted us the score, and they did equalise almost 2 minutes after the restart." I said, "There you go. They've walked out on the pitch with a pint in their hand, and a cigar, at their lips. You just know that they're going to step off it, and the opposition manager knows that." And he says, get into them from the first minute of the restart. Get right into them, because they'll step off. They would have stepped off it, and you'll capitalise. And we've seen it happen so many times. I mean, it happened in a way in the Carabao Cup final in the extra time period. We were the better side for most of that match. Extra time, we stopped playing, stepped off it. Liverpool took advantage. And in a way, that's what Leeds did. But, we got back into it thanks to Connor scoring a great goal at the end. It would have been a huge injustice had we not got through against that match. We were much the better side, but we don't kill games. We let teams back in. We get sloppy. It drives you up the wall as a supporter, because you just you think it's again.
To be honest, you could be talking about us. All of that could be levelled at us this season. The number of goals we've given away in the last sort of 5-10 minutes of games is ridiculous.
I mean, the opposite was true with Villa. I mean, the 0-0 at home, where again we were the better side, and weirdly Emery was very negative and defensive that match, and I was surprised by that, because the form of the two sides at the time, I was thinking we were going to get humped, to be honest, and I thought we would when we went up there for the replay. But I think that's our best performance of the season. We were superb. We pressed them all night. We put together a lot of really, forward attacking football, a lot of forward passing, which is something we don't do too much of. And we made them look ordinary, and they were flying at the time, if you remember. Yeah, so that's probably our best performance of the season.
And your thoughts when the draw came out and you got Leicester?
Yeah, I mean, I was relatively happy because I didn't want to get Liverpool or Man United or Man City or Newcastle for obvious reasons at the moment. So I was quite happy about that. Leicester, I mean, look, I see Leicester being a bit like the Leeds match. It won't be a pushover. It won't be easy. You are in good form. You wouldn't be the top of the league if you weren't. We're in pretty poor / shambolic form. So, you could do us easily, I think, on Sunday. But if we step up, if we're at it, if we have the right attitude, I think we are a better team than you lot, even if we have got a lot of young and experienced players. When we pull it together, we look really, really good. It's just that we not only do we not seem capable of doing that from match to match, we don't seem capable of doing it from half to half or 10 minute to 10 minute. You get every single kind of bit of Chelsea in a match, and it's, so we can certainly be taken advantage of, I think. And I think you're a fairly decent side, so you're more than capable of doing that.
And how are we going to see Chelsea line up?
That's the $64 billion question. I'll tell you how I'd like to see it line up. I mean, I'd like to see Pochettino take it blooming well seriously. Chelsea supporters love winning trophies, particularly the FA Cup. So I want to see the strongest lineup he's got available. I've got a bit of an issue with Sterling at the moment, who I think he's been terrible for us, really. Doesn't work hard enough, is a bit selfish, doesn't really show any leadership qualities. So I would rather have one of the youngsters playing instead of him. But the ideal lineup for me, presuming they're all fit, I mean, Chilwell will be out, which is a shame because I think even though he struggled since he's come back from injury, I think he's a class player. So I suspect it will be, Cucurella again, who's a bit 50-50. Chalobah, Disasi, Gusto. Gusto's been actually one of the few finds this season. He's been superb. I like him. He'll play. On the midfield, I mean, he might start Cassidy or Chukwuemeka. It depends what he feels about Enzo, Caicedo and Gallagher. But, I mean, those three are our best three midfielders, so I'd start them. Palmer has to start. He's absolutely superb. Jackson is better on the left than he is in the middle. He is no striker, but he does a good job on the left. So then it's a question of whether you start Madueke or Mudryk or Sterling. I mean, the other option, of course, is you have Mudryk playing in a more of a 10 role where he seems to be a lot more effective. Play him on the right, and he looks like he doesn't know how to play football. But actually, he's played number 10 a couple of times recently. He's looked quite good. But basically, I would probably go for Madueke on the right, Palmer in the middle, Sterling on the left, and the three I've said on midfield plus the back four that I mentioned. That's the strongest lineup.
A couple of days ago, we were reporting in Leicestershire Live, which means it's probably, obviously, 110% true, Craig. But it was saying that Chelsea have 8 players missing for the FA Cup quarter-final. Is it that bad?
He's not far wrong. If you give me 1 second, I can confirm. Let me have a look.
What are the players that it was saying here? Fofana, we discussed, and we will be discussing. Levi Colwell, Ben Chilwell. Yeah. Oh, here we go.
Well, I've got it, Chris. Chilwell, Fofana, James, Lavia, Nkunku, Ugachukwu, Badiashile, Colwell. So that's 2, 4.
Easy for you to say.
That's not really. No, that's the 8. That's the 8.
Yeah, and pretty much on the ball. Now, Craig, I'm not going to sort of do the whole sort of bring a team up here, but this is the team that I went for because I was asked a question by the BBC, and I thought, do we stick? And let's be honest with you, like we say, the team that he put out against Bournemouth won. Our what you would call first choice hadn't been, if you like. So does he stick with those, or does he go for experience? And I think because it's one of the rounds that has that word final in it, we have to go as strong as we can do.
I'm not sure he will. I'm honestly
not. I don't know whether he will or not, but this is what I think he.
I mean,
needs
it is
to do,
interesting that you stole my Mark Albrighton.
No, you were the one that gave me,
week.
and I will say this here, and I will say this now. You gave me that idea, and that is why I have got. You see, I don't just listen to you and ignore you and think, that's just Craig rambling on like he does, When Adrian he has a whiskey and he rambles on in the corner all night. I do actually take on board what you say, so that is why, quite rightly, I've agreed with you, thinking, that experience in there.
I don't think it will be far away from that. I think Marcel will play instead of Mavididi. I think Mavididi has been disappointing in the last few games, and the manager's come out and said he's been disappointed in him. I think he might have. I think if we'd have still got that sort of 8, 9, 10 point lead at the top, I think he might have gone stronger. I don't think, although we do have the international break, and we
do. That's the other thing as well.
Yeah, there will be some players going away, so it does give him a little bit of leeway to go stronger than he might have done, to be honest. But it is a quarter-final. It is a chance, and he does like to test himself against bigger and better clubs. So I don't think he'll be far away from that, but I just think there might be 1 or 2 players.
What you again? This is. I'm not saying that this. I think is what he will go for. This is who I would like to see out there.
Yeah.
I've gone for Ndidi because he seems to be reasonably fit and he's got the experience.
Yeah.
And I just think at the back, Faz has not been playing. He's had a couple of iffy games. And I'm being very, very kind to him there. And that's why I brought Cody in, because, again, it's that older head experienced. But my worry is that we haven't got a lot of speed at the back there. Hermansen, look, nothing against Old Chicken. He had a very good game against Bournemouth. He had a couple of howlers. It's just the system we play. But again, I think, like I say, I think things change when you go from a round to a final.
I think
that's what changes. And for me, look, up front, for me, it's just got to be Vardy. This is the sort of occasion, and like you say, he's got 2 weeks off after. If Enzo's got his head screwed on, he's given him the week off and said, don't bother coming in for training, because when you do that, you score 2 goals. He will love this occasion, won't he?
Yeah, I mean, it's right up his street. He's a man for the big game, and he quite rightfully will be a Leicester legend forever. And he's in the sunshine of his career at the moment, but he's going through a little bit of a purple patch. He's scoring goals. He's looking lively. He looks like he's got that energy and desire back. And I'm sure that he wants to get us back into the Premier League and have one more shot up there as well. I think whether he'll get the offer of that as a 1-year contract, I'm not sure, but he'll want this opportunity to go and prove himself again against.
I think FFP will have a big say in that. To be honest with you, the money he's on. Anybody there, like you mentioned Mavididi, anybody else you would swap in that?
Not necessarily, because I don't think we've got the players at the minute. Sadly, we've got a couple of injuries that are really, really hurting. Ricardo's been fantastic this season in that inverted fullback role.
Starting, obviously.
Oh, he's been fantastic, and the wingers have just been flattering to deceive a little bit the last few weeks, but Fatawu looks like he's always got, he's got a lot of shots in him. He hasn't got many on target. But Mavididi, and I've said this, on many of these podcasts that we've done, within the first 10 minutes if he's up for the game or not. Like a lot of wingers. If he's not, then you might as well just hook him after 10 minutes. And sadly, he's been like that the last few weeks. So it wouldn't surprise me if he's changed.
An ex-Arsenal player, so he might be up for this as well.
Yeah, maybe.
Goalkeeper, Hermansen, Stolchik.
It wouldn't surprise me if he goes with Still, to be honest, because he's not really let them down.
No,
he'll give us kittens, Jesus. He's, if your strikers are on it, and I'm sure they'll have done their homework. if they close him down quick, they've got every chance of nicking the ball off him because he does like to take a risk. So, but I think he might play him.
Yeah. That moment we all love, score predictions. I'm going to come to you first, Chid, because it gives me time to think.
Yeah, I had a feeling you'd do that.
Yeah.
I mean, Chelsea are just unbelievably difficult to predict at all these days. I mean, one thing I would say, we were kind of doing this on the show on Monday night when we realised that, I mean, our big problem was actually, finding the net and putting the ball in it for a long time. But we seem to have sorted that problem out. But we've now scored as many goals as we've conceded over the last kind of 18 odd matches. So now the problem is actually conceding. So I think both teams will score. I think home advantage. Do you know what? I wonder actually, you were talking a minute ago, who needs this the most? You are, your priority has got to be coming back up, and you're sitting in top at the moment. You're only 3 points above Leeds in second. So I wonder if we need to win this competition more than you do, and I wonder if that might count for it at the end of the day. Plus, we're at home. We are finding the net a bit more frequently. If he picks a strong side and doesn't bottle it and play a weakened side, I think we should get a 2-1 out of this, at least. But I see us both scoring because we just can't keep the ball out of the net now.
Craig, and this is the part of our prediction league.
Well, yeah, just a quick one on that. Is it too dramatic to say that the FA Cup could save Poch's job?
Well, if you work for TalkSport, no. or Sky,
Yeah.
I think generally a lot of people are thinking that if he doesn't get us into Europe, he could be toast. I mean, I think it would be really unfair. One thing I didn't mention earlier on, of course, is that he's had an unbelievable amount of injuries to deal with, and I mean, a lot of faith was put in the signing of Nkunku, who was supposed to be able to kind of provide the goals for us, but he's played, but he's hardly played. And in pre-season, you saw how Poch set up. He was the absolute fulcrum of that. So he's kind of been robbed of the player who was going to turn things around of us. So I think whatever happens, it'll be really unfair if he gets the tin tack. But, who knows? Europe is important to the owners because it'll generate more money for them. So you never know. From our point of view, it's our only realistic chance of a trophy this season. We blew one, and we did blow it. We were better than Liverpool, and then we blew it in extra time. So that annoyed us big time. And a lot of people lost faith in Poch as a result of that. So this is important. We want to win this.
Yeah. For my score prediction, Chris, do you want me to go with my head or my heart? That's what I'm talking with.
Your head and your heart, sir.
Yeah. My heart says we nick it, but in realistic terms, and I hate going against us, but I think Chelsea are going to have a strong end to the season. I really do. I think there's some signs there. Even Mudryk is, that goal he scored the other night showed a player in confidence to sort of nick it, past someone and then go around the keeper. I thought, I think you'll finish strongly, and I think you'll be too strong for us. And I think we're going to be on the end of a 3-1.
Ooh. Now for me, like I say, if we lose, I'm not gonna cry. I'm not gonna be upset. As long as we sort of go down fighting and put a good performance in, because it is a Premier League opposition. I mean, if we'd drawn Leeds and got knocked out, or Coventry, then I would probably be feeling different. But this is a Premier League team. It's like, we played Liverpool in the Carabao Cup. We lost that 3-1. That wasn't a 3-1. I mean, their second goal was a worldie. Nobody was stopping that. Gordon Banks, Peter Shilton and Peter Bonetti, all three of them in the goal at the same time, wouldn't have stopped that one. And then the third one hit the post and was going to, if it hits the post, it goes in or goes out. Theirs happened to go in. So we put up a good fight. I was going to go 3-1 to Chelsea. But after what Chidge just said about conceding goals, I'm going to go 3-2 to Chelsea. Still, by the way, they are at the Premier League team. If we go out, I think Chelsea will be a little bit more nervous because you look, and I would be more confident if this was the Leicester from 3 months ago when we were that far ahead of everybody else, and it was just everything was going in for us. But Chelsea are going to go into this mad, really high favourites. If they lose, I know despite where we are, it will still be an upset. Like you said, the pressure might be on Poch a little bit. So we can probably relax. And like I say, if we lose, we know we're not going to be going mad because we've still got the promotion and that's the number one goal. But yeah, I've gone for a goal fest of 3-2. And we're going to be having a look at Bin at Both straight after this. And it could only be one person. Every Leicester fan's favourite player that's now at Chelsea. Not. Wesley Fofana. Now, obviously, this might be hard for you to talk about, Chids, because actually, how many times has he played for you? We talked about Cassidy, but this guy.
He played a few times last season, and the jury's kind of out on him. I mean, so many of the players we bought and the team generally were a bit of a shambles last season. It would have been unfair to judge anybody. There were moments when he looked really classy. He looked like a really classy player, and I know he's he came highly recommended. There are other times when he just looked clueless, and he does look brittle. And I mean, I know he got a badly broken leg, didn't he, with you guys the year you signed him, and he was out for a long time. So that
was the Spanish. Was it Spanish? It was, wasn't it, Greg?
Oh, shocking tackle.
Who was it?
Yeah.
Who was it?
Was it Sociedad? I can't remember who it was.
Yeah.
It was in a pre-season friendly, wasn't it?
Right.
He was.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, he's looked brittle for us, understandably, and I just wonder if he's going to be one of those players who is injury prone. I mean, he looks very skinny for a big unit of a central defender. He does look skinny, and you kind of wonder if he's really built for that kind of a position. But, we've got a lot of players like that. I mean, Lavia turned up, broke a fingernail, was out for 6 months, played a half against Crystal Palace, and we haven't seen him since. He's injured again. I mean, Chilwell's another one I worry about, who was absolutely, I mean, I know he was great for you. He's been great for an absolutely superb player. Doesn't look the same player since his injury, and now he's injured again. Mm-hmm. There's something really, I tell you what, we were talking about football generally earlier, weren't we, Craig? Yeah, there is something really weird going on across football with injuries at the moment. Because I mean, I don't know about what it's like in the Championship, in the Premier League. Every club has got between 5 and 12 players out at the moment. It's like weird. Something is going very wrong, I think, in the game if you're getting that many players getting injured.
You know what it is, Chidge, don't you? They're playing too many games.
Oh, yeah.
Do you know what? I was thinking that, and I thought, no, I'm not going to say that.
I don't know. It's not just that. I mean, because they're not compared to when we were kids. When if you were successful, you played 60 odd games. Remember Leeds, Liverpool, those kind of teams. I don't think it's the number. I think it's the intensity. So many of these teams press a lot more than we ever did when back in the day. Maybe it's more intense. I think the pitches and the boots have something to do with it as well. Actually,
the boots, definitely. Yeah. I mean, I cannot believe how many injuries and how many times the game is stopped because a footballer's had his foot trod on.
Yeah.
I mean, they might as well put on, those things that they wear that, the CSI guys wear when they put, those blue things over the shoes to go into a crime scene. They might as well wear them. Absolutely no. They're that thin now. They're like ballet shoes. These guys might as well be doing ballet. Although a lot of them would probably fall over doing that. Let's be honest with them. They're not
probably where they learned to dive, Chris.
Yeah, probably. Yeah. And it's the same with shin pads. I mean, they're not shin pads, are they? They're that the size of your big nail. No, that's weird. But look, I've put Judas there, Craig, and I've got to be honest with you. I'm going to come out and I'm going to say that I wished Wesley Fofana nothing but bad luck when he left the club. I actually said that I hoped within a month of him signing for Chelsea, he would break both his legs and never play football again.
So it's you. Wow.
That is how much I hate this guy. And I guys like Maddison, I wish him all the best. I've still got his signed shirt up on the wall, But the way that this guy left, he was injured. And all right, you could say, well, yeah, we looked after him. It was our responsibility to look after him because he was under contract to us. But all the shit he was putting out about, oh, thank you. When he came back, thank you, Leicester family. I'm going to repay you, all this, that, and the other. Then goes on strike. And this is what a two-faced rat he is. When Madison's, when Madison got picked for England and he's going, oh, well done, brother. I'm so proud of you. Aussie fuck, because when Maddison scored an amazing free kick against Southampton, he was sat with his bit on the side next to him. It was obviously with him for the money. On his phone, and he didn't even look up. And when he scored, he never moved his fucking fat arse. I hope this guy suffers an incurable death and is never seen on a football pitch again. What are your thoughts on him, Craig?
I was always very fond of him.
Don't know when he first came. I can remember having I won a competition and I did a video chat with some of the players before the game. He was walking through after training, and he came on and was chatting away. Yeah, but there were ways to leave the club, and going on strike and not even getting up to support the team that's still paying your wages at that point.
Chris, you better have one of your tablets.
I fucking need more than one, mate, when I talk about this guy.
Well,
Brad calls him Voldemort, and I'm not surprised.
When I was thinking of who you might have here, I was hoping that you would have had Muzzy, is it? But he never really got a chance at Chelsea. Even though I know he was highly rated at the time.
This guy's never really had a chance at Chelsea because my sticking my needles in my doll seems to be working.
Muzzy, it was fantastic play for us. Fantastic, one of the best signings out of someone else's reserves we've ever made. Yeah. But for Fafana, it's funny because whenever he comes up in conversation with my lad Scott, and Scott is pretty much like me, don't get too high, don't get too low, and he doesn't really wish anyone who leaves us any ill will, apart from Wesley Fafana. He is exactly the same. Exactly
my
the same.
From another mother.
Yeah. Just because of the way that he engineered the move out of the club, after injury and this, that, and the other, it leaves a really nasty taste in the mouth when a player does that. Well, there's ways and means of getting the move. If a club like Chelsea want you, they're going to get you. Yeah. You can go about it so many different ways. We sometimes say, "Oh, they must be badly advised." But he's a grown man. He doesn't need advisors. He was in charge of the way that he handled it, and he handled it really, really badly. And sadly, if there is any divine intervention, it's coming home to roost. And I'm not sure. He is a fantastic player, Chidge. If he was ever at his peak, if he got back near there, you would see he is a. They talk about having a Rolls Royce. I think he's a fantastic player. I'm not sure he's ever going to get back to those levels, sadly.
You're right.
You paid 60 million for him, and he was worth that. He was, like you say, when he played, but it's the way. And I always say, and I didn't realise this at the time, and I always quote this with Harry Maguire. He knew Man United were coming in for him. And I also quote this with regards to Tielemans. I don't hate him quite as much as Fafana, but he's another one. Because Harry Maguire knew that Man United wanted him, and he wanted to go to Man United, and his contract was up. And Rob Tanner, who works for the Athletic, told me this story, and apparently he went to the Leicester board and said, "Look, my contract's up, but you've saved me from Hull, from relegation. I owe you something. Let me sign a new contract. Put a clause in it, and it's got to be this much, or it's got to be this type of club, blah blah blah, and at least you get something for me." And that's why we could hold out for £80 million. And fair play to the guy. And I think he's still a good player. I just think he's playing for a shit team at the moment. But, not for him going on strike. Not for him sat there sticking on his phone and not moving when, his so-called best mate brother that is now, that he congratulated when he got picked for England scores. I hope he never plays for you again, Chid. I'm sorry, but I just hope
he may well not, and if he does, he might not be the same player. I mean, do you know what? Chelsea supporters are really good with players who've, left the club. Apart from Spurs, if they go to Spurs, they get dogs abuse. The only one I can think of in recent times, which is similar to what you're talking about with Fofana, is Thibaut Courtois.
Yeah,
because he did that. He went on strike to get to Real Madrid. He gets dogs abuse when he comes back, and rightly so.
Yes.
But on the other hand, Eden Hazard, who Real Madrid, everybody knew he was going to Real Madrid at the beginning. He had his and he was playing for that complete idiot Sarri. And he still gave his best season for us ever and won the Europa League. So he kind of went the right way. So you're right. There is a right way to do it and a wrong way. And going on strike and throwing your toys out at the pram is utterly disrespectful to the people who pay your wages, who really, at the end of the day, are still us, I suppose. I mean, maybe not so much in our case, but, So I agree. I agree with that. I agree with that.
Not many players from other teams that I say we love, but Eden Hazard, let's give him.
He did do you a solid, didn't he?
He did us a very good favour. He did us very good. Of course, the other player I could have gone for, Craig, was Dennis Wise.
Of course. Don't you like Dennis Wise?
Oh,
can I say, to quote Declan Donnelly, he's a very small man.
We haven't got. We've been going a long time already. I could easily go down Chris's route with Dennis Wise. I cannot.
I know, that's why I mentioned him.
Yeah, I think what it showed with it showed with Dennis Wise that surrounding yourself with good players can make you look like a good player. Because when he was on the ball at Chelsea, he always had people available to him. When he come to Leicester, he didn't, and he was awful. And then he goes and has a card game at a pre-season and smashes someone else's jaw, and then tries to sue us for sacking him. Despicable, man.
And wins.
I forgot about all of that.
Yeah,
I forgot all of the about. I thought you might.
He did get strangled by Jerry Taggart.
Yeah,
when they met a few games later.
Jerry, man of the people, Taggart.
Yes.
Yeah. Brilliant. I thought you might choose, Frank Sinclair, the greatest ever own goal scorer of all time.
Hey, he scored some beauties against us, for us. Yeah.
Bless him.
He's a good bloke, Frank. Nice bloke.
I've been trying to get him on, and in fairness, he does keep saying yes, he will, but obviously he is working in football, so it's hard to sort of tie him down. But he's got some goals of the season, but not always at the right end, as you say.
No,
he was like that for us. There's been a few, in fairness, but Dennis Wise.
It's hard to not like people who play as if they're fans.
Yes.
And he was one of them. You leave it all out on the pitch, and that's what every fan just wants. That.
There's another one that I saw in your title sequence who is so well loved at Chelsea, and people were absolutely appalled that he left. And that's Keithy Weller.
Yeah,
he was our player of the year, and we sold him to you because basically the club was skint. But I was a bit too young, but I got mates who were a bit older than me, and they loved Keith Weller and were distraught when he got sold because he went on to play for England, didn't he? After
he did. Yeah. We had one game. I think it was against Northern Ireland when we had 4 Leicester City players in.
Yeah.
In the England team.
That will never happen again.
No, it won't.
I'm going to say just getting.
It's Fofana at the door.
I just have to show you that. No, his lawyers are though. I'm just going to show you that.
Brilliant.
Keith Weller. He has actually signed it. You can't really see it on there, but he has signed it.
Great player.
And Alan Birchnell, he was at Chelsea as well, wasn't he?
Yeah.
We could make an 11 up here, couldn't we?
We probably could. That's for another show.
It is. Otherwise, your promise won't come off. But last question to Chids here. Looking at the game on Sunday, Chelsea will just be looking at this as a scouting mission, won't they?
No, if it was Brighton, yes.
Oh, I don't know. We've said that you've already, in case we get promoted, got a contract ready to offer Fatawu. I'm sure your guys will be up there thinking, "Oh, he's all right. We'll sign him, and he's all right."
If you've got anybody under the age of 23 who can tie his laces and kick the ball more than 2 yards, then I'd be worried. Unless, of course, you want about 60 million for them, and they'll happily offer you that.
Yeah, that's right. We'll ask 60, and Todd Bowley will pay us 70.
Yeah.
Anyway, thank you so very much, gentlemen. Chids, it's been a pleasure having you on. I'd wish you all the best, and I think you will win it, but I hope you don't, obviously.
I know. But wouldn't have it any other way, Chris.
No, but good luck with the rest of it. Again, there is a link in the description below, but just tell everybody where they can find you.
Well, I mean, all the socials, it's at Chelsea Fancast, and I'm at Stamford Chidge. But yeah, we're on YouTube. We distribute the podcast through Acast, and it's on all the usual. What do we say? All the usual podcast platforms and some of the rubbish ones too. So there you go.
Yes, indeed. All the best, mate. Take care. Thanks for coming
Pleasure.
on. And I'll see you tomorrow.
Cheers.
You will. Looking forward to it.
Yeah. Take care. Bye-bye.
Cheers, Chidge.
Craig, thank you very much as well.
You're welcome.
Again, do you want to give a shout out to where people can follow you?
Yeah, you just find me at Craig Bird on Twitter. That'll get me.
That will get you. One of the old school. No.
One of the old. Yeah, got the orig.
Are you going? Did you manage to get a ticket?
No, I'm not going. Last time I went to Stamford Bridge was we call it the Schlupp game because we all went down, and I think it was the season after we'd won the league, and Jeff Schlupp gave one of the worst performances of a Leicester player ever. Although looking back on it now, he was ahead of his time because what he did, he'd get in advanced positions down the left wing and pass the ball backwards. So maybe he was just, as I say, a years ahead of his time, and he's just since been replaced by Harvey Barnes, and sadly now it appears Mavididi. But yeah, poor old Jeff Schlupp, and we got beaten that game anyway. So I've not been back since.
I remember he gave me my worst ever thing as a commentator, and this was before I was doing watch along, so I was just typing it into Facebook. And I said, "Will somebody get Jeff Schlupp off that pitch now? He's effing useless," or something along those lines. Yeah. And literally, as my finger came off the send button, he scored.
Well, he is now in our family. He is a verb. So if you wildly slash a shot into the crowd somewhere, you have schlupped it.
Yes. Oh, nice one. Love it. And it's true. Craig, thank you so much. I know we're late and we had a late start to get Chids on. But I will see you next week. Thank you very much. Take care, everybody.
Mate.
Have a good weekend.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye. Thanks to Craig there, my wise old owl. And we're going to be here. We're not going to be there because I'm not in London, but we will be doing a watch along from 12 o'clock this Sunday. Catch me before then, 8 o'clock on Chid's channel tomorrow night. They will be the Prediction League tomorrow at 9. Cheers, Craig. Thank you. And on Sunday morning at about 20:07, that was pretty spot on. You can catch me on Talk Sport. I will be on with Natalie Sawyer, a lovely lady, and Tony Cascarino, who will be talking all about the FA Cup quarter-final. And I'll see if I can stand up to Tony Cascarino. And then catch me about 10:20 at night on Talk TV with Mark Saggers, when we'll be looking at the post-match. So it's a Talk Sport, Talk TV sandwich for me. And in between that, 12 o'clock there. Get along, follow us. Thank you so very much. Please, whatever you do, if you've enjoyed the show, please just do this. And thank you very much. If you have been listening via your favourite podcast platform, thank you for lending me your ears. And if you have been listening or watching and joining in, thank you very much. We will be back 12 o'clock on Sunday. Take care. Come on, you foxes.
Thanks for watching. These videos are tremendous. You'd better like them too, or I'll be back.
The TalkSport Fan Network is the ultimate on-demand destination for the UK's best fan-led football podcasts,
including Leicester Till I Die, independent analysis and reaction for the Foxes faithful.
The TalkSport Fan Network.
Unbeatable club-dedicated content created by the fans, for the fans.
Follow the podcast on the TalkSport Fan Network.